My brother betrayed the family by stealing our brother's fiancée, now that his wife cheated on him the same way. The family is destroyed, and he's begging for forgiveness, but he'll never get it. I'm 22 years old, I work in digital marketing, and I still can't believe what happened in my family like 2 years ago, because it basically destroyed everything we were as a family, and I don't know if we'll ever be able to go back to what we were before. Although honestly, I don't think so. I think that's over forever. The thing is, we grew up, my siblings and I, with this super strong idea that family was the most important thing in the world. Like my dad always said that blood is thicker than water, and that no matter what happened, the family always had to stick together. We always had to take care of each other, because at the end of the day, we were all we really had. And I totally believed it. We all believed it. We grew up with that drilled into our heads since we were kids. There are 4 siblings total. Well, there were 4 who functioned as a united family at least. David is the oldest. He's 29 now. He was always like the golden child, the one who did everything right, the charismatic one, the one everyone liked, the one who got the best grades without trying too hard, who got the best jobs, basically the perfect one. Then there's Ryan, who's 25, and Ryan is totally the opposite of David. He's quieter, more thoughtful, like the one who works really hard for everything he gets. Nothing comes easy to him, but he works hard and eventually achieves it, and he was always super noble, like too noble for his own good, now that I think about it. Sophie is 27, she's my sister, the most level-headed of all of us, like the one who always has a cool head and thinks things through before acting, never does anything impulsive. And I'm the youngest. I was always like everyone's confidant because I guess being the youngest, everyone trusted me. They told me their stuff, their problems, their doubts, and I was like the neutral point among everyone. We grew up in a normal house, middle class. My parents worked a lot, but they were always there for us. We had family dinners every day, vacations together every summer. We celebrated all birthdays and all holidays together. We were that family that everyone saw and said how nice, how close they are. And yeah, we were close, or so we all thought. My mom is one of those people who always wants everything to be perfect, everyone to be happy, no conflicts, like she avoids confrontations at all costs and always tries to smooth things over when there are problems. My dad is stricter, more about firm values, principles that aren't negotiable. And he was the one who drilled into our heads the most, that thing about family loyalty, that family was sacred, that we would never betray each other, because that was the worst thing you could do to your blood. Everything started to change like 4 years ago, when Ryan met Jessica at his work. I think they worked at the same tech company or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Jessica was 24 at that time. Ryan was 23. And they fell in love, super fast. Like in 3 months they were already living together. And honestly, she seemed great at first. We met her at a family dinner, and we all thought she was perfect for Ryan. She was nice, smart, pretty, and you could tell Ryan was completely crazy about her. They dated for about 2 years, and like 2.5 years ago, Ryan told us he was going to propose. He was super excited. He had been saving for months to buy her a ring. He planned this whole romantic thing at the beach where they met, and she said yes. We were happy for him. He was the first of the siblings to get engaged, and my parents were super excited because they were going to have the first family wedding. But looking back now, I should have seen it coming. We all should have seen it. We started planning the wedding. Jessica and Ryan wanted to get married like a year after the engagement, and obviously David was super involved in everything because he was the best man. Ryan chose him because he was his older brother, and they had always been close, or so we thought. And that's when weird things started happening. Subtle at first. Like Jessica and David spent a lot of time together planning things for the wedding, which made sense because he was the best man. But there was something about the way they interacted that made me uncomfortable, although I couldn't identify exactly what it was. I remember a family dinner like 6 months after the engagement. We were all at my parents' house, and Jessica and David were sitting next to each other at the table, and they had these inside jokes that nobody else understood. They laughed at things the rest of us didn't get. They looked at each other in a way that I thought, that's weird. But I told myself I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid. Sophie noticed it too. She told me afterwards. She said, "Hey, did you see how David and Jessica were acting?" And I said, "Yeah, it seemed weird to me." But neither of us said anything because we didn't want to cause unnecessary drama. And besides, Ryan was so happy planning his wedding that we didn't want to ruin that for him with our suspicions that were probably unfounded. But things kept getting more obvious. I mean, Jessica started going to David's place with excuses that they needed to plan this or that thing for the wedding, and sometimes she'd stay really late, like until 11 or midnight. And Ryan started making comments like, Jessica spent all day with David planning the banquet thing, or Jessica and David went to taste cakes without me because I had work. And I'd see Ryan, and I could see something was bothering him, but he never said anything directly. He'd just make these passive comments and then shut up. One night, Ryan came to my apartment. I was living alone at that time. I had just gotten my first job after college, and he showed up like at 10 at night without warning. And when I opened the door, I saw he looked terrible, like he hadn't slept well in days. He had dark circles. He looked haggard. We sat in my living room and he started talking. He told me he needed to tell someone what he was thinking because he was going crazy, and he confessed to me that he thought Jessica and David were having something, that he had noticed the closeness between them, the looks, the casual touches, the constant messages, and that he had checked Jessica's phone one night when she was asleep and had seen messages between her and David that were too intimate, too affectionate, nothing explicit but definitely not normal between a brother-in-law and his future sister-in-law. I asked him what the messages said exactly, and he told me things like, I miss you. I can't stop thinking about you. Last night was incredible. And I just sat there thinking, no way. This can't be happening. This has to be a misunderstanding. I told him he had to confront them, that he had to talk to Jessica at least, and he told me he was scared, that he was scared, his suspicions were true, and that everything would fall apart, that he'd rather live in uncertainty than face the truth. And I understood his point, but I also knew he couldn't go on like that he was going to go crazy if he didn't clear things up. Like 2 more weeks passed and things reached the breaking point. Ryan came to my apartment again, this time like at 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. I was working from home, and when I opened the door, he was crying, like tears running down his face, shaking, and I immediately knew something horrible had happened. He came in and sat on my couch and told me, Jessica confessed everything to me. She told me she's been having an affair with David for the past 8 months, since before we even got engaged. She told me she's in love with him and that she's going to leave me. And I just stood there in absolute shock. I mean, it's one thing to suspect something and completely different for it to be confirmed to you. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't process that David, our older brother, the golden child, the one who supposedly had all the values they had instilled in us, had betrayed Ryan in such a brutal way. Ryan told me that Jessica had gone to his apartment that morning and told him she couldn't continue with the lie, that she had been trying to break things off with David but couldn't, that she was too in love with him, and that she was really sorry but she was going to leave, that she was going to move in with David. And I asked him, and what did David say? Does he know that you know? And Ryan told me that David had been avoiding his calls all day, that he had sent him like 20 messages and he hadn't responded to any of them, like the coward couldn't even show his face after destroying his brother's life. I told Ryan to stay at my apartment that night, that he wasn't in any condition to be alone, and I called Sophie to tell her what had happened. Sophie got furious. Like I had never seen her so angry in my life, she started screaming on the phone that she was going to kill David. How dare he? That he was a piece of trash, and she told me she was coming to my apartment immediately. She arrived like half an hour later, and when she saw Ryan, her heart broke. She sat next to him and hugged him while he cried. And the 3 of us just sat there not knowing what to do, not knowing how to process something so devastating. The next day, Ryan went to the apartment he shared with Jessica to get his stuff, and Sophie and I went with him because we didn't want him to be alone. When we got there, Jessica was already gone. She had left the engagement ring on the kitchen table with a note that said, I'm sorry. I know this doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know I never wanted to hurt you. And Ryan read the note and threw it in the trash and started packing his things. It took us like 3 hours to get everything out, and that whole time Ryan didn't say a single word. He just packed his things mechanically, while Sophie and I helped him, in silence. That night we went to my parents' house to tell them what had happened, and when we walked in, my mom was in the kitchen making dinner, and my dad was in the living room watching the news. And we told them we needed to talk to them about something important. We all sat in the living room, and Ryan told them everything. told them that Jessica had left him for David, that they'd been having an affair for months, and my mom immediately started crying. Like she covered her mouth with her hand, and tears started falling. And my dad stayed completely still, face red, veins in his neck showing. And after like a minute of silence, he said, "David is no longer my son. I don't want to see him again. I don't want to hear his name in this house again." My mom tried to calm him down, told him we needed to talk to David, that we needed to hear his side, that maybe there was an explanation. And my dad looked at her and said, "What explanation can there be for betraying your brother this way, for destroying your family like this? There's no possible justification." And I agreed with my dad. Sophie, too. We both told her we were completely on Ryan's side, and that we didn't want to have anything to do with David ever again. My mom kept crying and saying we were a family, that we had to stick together, that this was exactly what David had taught us. We shouldn't let happen. And the irony of that was so brutal I almost laughed. Like the one who taught us about family loyalty was the first to betray that value in the most horrible way possible. Jessica moved in with David literally 2 days after leaving Ryan, and my mom, against all of our wishes, went to visit David at his apartment to talk to him. When she came back home, she told us David was very sorry, that he knew he had done something terrible, that he was suffering a lot, and that he had told her he was in love with Jessica, and that he couldn't help it, that he had tried to resist, but the feelings were too strong. And my dad exploded when he heard that. He yelled at my mom, how could she defend David? How could she feel sorry for him when Ryan was destroyed? And my mom said she wasn't defending him, she was just saying what he had told her, and that we all needed time to process and heal, but that eventually we had to forgive because we were family. But none of us agreed with that. Like Sophie told my mom directly that David was dead to her, that she didn't want to see him again in her life, and I told her the same thing, and Ryan obviously too. My dad went even further. He told my mom that if she kept visiting David and maintaining contact with him, he was going to consider that a betrayal too. And my mom started crying and said he was her son, that she couldn't just cut off contact with him. And my dad told her, then you're going to have to choose. Either you're with Ryan or you're with David. You can't be with both. And that's when the family really split, because my mom chose to maintain contact with David. Despite all of our objections, she'd go visit him like once a week, talk to him on the phone, and we knew she told him things about Ryan, about how he was doing, what he was doing. And that infuriated us because we felt she was betraying Ryan's trust. My dad basically stopped talking to my mom beyond what was necessary. They slept in separate rooms, barely spoke to each other, and the tension in that house was unbearable every time we went to visit them. Ryan sank into a terrible depression after all this, like he stopped going out, stopped seeing his friends, barely ate, and Sophie and I were super worried about him. We convinced him to go to therapy and he eventually agreed, and that helped him a little, but he still looked devastated, completely broken. He moved to a new apartment because he couldn't stand being in the old apartment where he had planned his life with Jessica. And Sophie and I helped him with the move. We tried to be there for him as much as we could. Meanwhile, David and Jessica continued with their relationship as if nothing had happened. Like my mom would tell us they were happy, that they were planning their future together, and every time she said something like that, I felt immense rage. I felt like I wanted to scream at her to stop talking about them, that we didn't care if they were happy or not. And the worst part of it all is that, like 8 months after Jessica left Ryan, my mom came home one day and told us that David and Jessica had gotten engaged, that they were going to get married, and I couldn't believe it. Like the audacity, the absolute lack of shame. My mom asked us if we were going to go to the wedding, and the 4 of us, my dad, Sophie, Ryan, and I, told her no, no way. How could she even think we would consider going? And she got sad and said that then she was going to go alone, that someone from the family had to be there for David, and my dad told her to go, to do whatever she wanted. But if she went not to, expect any of us to be happy with that decision. And she went. She went to David and Jessica's wedding 6 months after they got engaged, and she was the only one from our entire family who was there. And when she came back and showed us photos, we didn't even look at them. We simply got up and left. After the wedding, things got even worse in the family. Like we stopped having family dinners because nobody wanted to be in the same house, knowing my mom was in constant contact with David, and birthdays and holidays became super awkward, or we just didn't celebrate them together. Ryan eventually got a better job in a city like 2 hours away from where we lived and moved there, said he needed a change of scenery, needed to start over away from everything that reminded him of Jessica and what had happened. Sophie also moved like 6 months later, got a job in another city, and I was left alone here with my parents, visiting them once in a while but knowing each visit was going to be awkward and tense. And just when we thought things couldn't get worse, like 6 months ago, something happened that honestly gave me a dark satisfaction, although I know I shouldn't have felt that way. My mom came to my apartment one day crying, like she was hysterical, and told me that Jessica had cheated on David, that David had discovered her having an affair with a coworker, and that their marriage was over. And I just stood there thinking, seriously, is this really happening? Like karma in its purest form? What he did to Ryan happened to him exactly the same way. My mom told me David was devastated, that he was begging Jessica not to leave him, that he was pleading with her to forgive him even though she was the one who had cheated, and that Jessica had told him she was leaving, that she didn't love him anymore, that it had been a mistake to marry him. And my mom wanted all of us to go support David, to go to his house, to console him, to help him get through this. And I simply told her, no, I'm not going to do that. I can't feel sorry for someone who's experiencing exactly what he did to his brother. I told Sophie and Ryan what had happened, and Sophie laughed, like a bitter laugh, and said, well, I guess he got what he deserved. And Ryan didn't say anything at first, just stayed quiet. And then after a while he said, you know what? It doesn't give me satisfaction that he's suffering. It just makes me sad that our family was destroyed over something so stupid, over a relationship that didn't even last. And he was right. Like David destroyed our entire family, betrayed all the values we grew up with, broke his brother's heart, divided our parents, all for a woman who, in the end, ended up doing exactly the same thing to him that he did to Ryan. My mom tried several more times to get us to go see David, to talk to him. She'd send us messages saying he wanted to apologize, that he wanted to fix things with the family. And all of us responded the same thing, that we weren't ready, that maybe we'd never be ready, that what he did was unforgivable, and that just because now he had experienced the same pain didn't erase what he had put us all through. My dad was the firmest in his position. He told my mom that David had made his bed, and now he had to lie in it, that he had made his decisions knowing the consequences, and that now he had to live with them. David tried to contact us directly too. He sent us long messages to each one asking for forgiveness, saying he understood that what he had done was terrible, that he had ruined everything, that he would do anything to fix things, but none of us responded to him. Sophie told me she blocked his number after the third message because she couldn't keep reading his attempts to justify himself, and I considered doing the same. But in the end, I just stopped opening his messages. I'd leave them unread and go on with my life. It's been like 6 months since Jessica left David, and my mom tells us he's in therapy now, that he's trying to work on himself, that he's truly sorry, and that eventually he hopes we can all sit down and talk as a family. But honestly, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Like Sophie says, she's never going to forgive him, that what he did is unforgivable, period. And Ryan says that maybe someday he can be in the same room as David, but that they'll never have the relationship they had before, that died the day Jessica confessed the affair. And I don't know what to think. Part of me understands that people make mistakes, that people fall in love with who they shouldn't. But another part of me can't get over the fact that he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew he was destroying his brother, his family, and he did it anyway. My dad still doesn't talk to David, still maintains that David is no longer his son, and my mom still visits him in secret because she knows if my dad finds out there's going to be another huge fight. Ryan is better now. Honestly, he looks happier, more at peace. He's dated a few girls, but nothing serious. He says he's still working on trusting people again, and I completely understand that. Sophie is focused on her career, she's thriving at her new job, and she says she's happy to have left all the drama behind and started fresh in a new city. And I'm still here, like in the middle of everything, being everyone's confidant again, like always. Listening to my mom cry on the phone about how the family is broken. Listening to Ryan talk about how he still has nightmares, sometimes about the day Jessica left him. Listening to Sophie say she'll never understand how David could do what he did. And the truth is, I don't understand it either. We grew up with the same values, with the same teachings about loyalty and family, and somehow he decided all of that was worth less than his feelings for his brother's fiancée. Last week, my mom asked me if I thought we could ever be a family again, if I thought there was any chance we could, all be in the same room again, without all this tension and pain. And I told her honestly, I don't know, Mom. I think what David did changed everything permanently. I think there are things that just can't be forgiven or overcome. And she started crying and said she just wanted her children together again, that she just wanted a normal family dinner where everyone was there and happy. And I told her I understood, but that was probably never going to happen, or at least not the way she remembered it, because that family no longer exists. The people we were before all this were not anymore.